Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel and podcast. It's time for yet another match preview in the hectic schedule that we have at the moment here at Newcastle United. And we're going to go straight in and talk about Nottingham Forest. Firstly, got to ask Andy, who's joining us for this one, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Apart from the football, yeah, everything's great. But
Yeah, tends to be the case, doesn't it?
let's just talk about Christmas and other things, I think, at the minute.
Yeah. And Nottingham Forest as well. Let's talk about them. But before we get started, is a quick word. And I tell you what, if you have dropped a bollock here and you've forgot to buy the Newcastle United fan in your life something as a gift or whatever, check out what our sponsors have got to say about that.
The Gallagher Shots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamelled pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com.
Got to say thanks to Scott for that one as well, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon, mate. Take care. So Boxing Day, lunchtime, 12:30, live to UK viewers on Amazon Prime, as is every game in this round of fixtures. Over Boxing Day, the 27th and the 28th, I think there's a one over there as well. So we're live on Amazon Prime with everybody that comes with that. You know, like if you're Alan Shearer's maybe doing commentary or punditry or whatever. And if you love that goal show as well, I must say, if you've got the subscription, Jeff Stelling does that now, and it's always pretty good to watch. It's a bit like TNT's Champions League goal show. If you're watching that while we were playing in there in the group stages. But yeah, so we're coming straight into this with Nottingham Forest, who have been on a little bit of a downward turn of form. They've just hired a new manager. Nuno Espirito Santos just joined after, what was his name? Steve Cooper got the boot just last week. But before we dive into Nottingham Forest, we'll just talk about the last time that we met Nottingham Forest at St James's Park, all the way back on the first day of last season. Forest's triumphant return to the Premier League was marred by a 2-0 loss at home to us at St James's Park. Again, that was the first day of last season in August. And for those who need reminding, typical routine Fabian Schär screamer from 25 yards, which was a carbon copy of his goal against Burnley. If you need to remember even more, head back and watch both of those, and I guarantee you'll think it's the same goal being shown twice. And then obviously Callum Wilson netting his first goal of last season with a very instinctive finish from a narrow angle inside the box. I think with the outside of his foot, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, he looked it over the keeper, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah, from an out wide cross there. So in terms of Nottingham Forest at St James's Park, in the last 20 meetings, and that's in every competition, so we're including League Cup and FA Cup this time. There's 20 games. Newcastle United have won 11, drawn 2, and Forest have come out victors 7 times. So the last time that we lost to Forest at St James's was in the 2017-18 League Cup. And our last loss in the league came all the way back in 1988-89. So it's a long, long time in the league since Forest have experienced any sort of joy.
What were you then, 25?
Get away. Maybe what? 1, 2, 1.5-ish. But yeah, so all the way back then. And I'm not Marco Besti, you know. I'm not as old as them. But yeah, so last league loss all the way back then. I think it was an FA Cup loss as well, somewhere in there in the mid-90s under the Entertainers. But some memorable victories in that time as well.
Well, I also remember the championship game at their place when we had about 13 players sent off.
Yeah. The injustice.
What was it? Was it 3 sent off in the end?
2. It was Dummett, which was never a red card. Well, one of them definitely was never a red card. It was Dummett, and there was who was the other one?
Did we lose a keeper, or was it Shelby or someone? I can't remember.
It might have been
I remember
Shelby.
we gave away 3 penalties, and Darlow saved 2 of them.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And Matt Ritchie went and put us 1-0 up.
What a ridiculous game.
Every single conceivably. But we've already exercised that demon. We exercised that demon last season when we went down there and beat them 2-1. But yeah, so you know, there's a memorable 5-0 win on the last day of the season, way back in the mid-90s as well, when we battered them off the park. But again, you know, our home form has been superb this season. We're not going to talk about the away form because we're not going to ruin everybody's Christmas like everybody else has. It's done. We're moving on. We're talking about Forest at home and how good a run of games we've got against them. And also, Andy, you've been looking at their recent form. Forest's recent form, and that makes for some pretty pleasant reading as well.
Well, it does. So it's one of those where if you look at their form, you have to actually scroll before you get to a win. That's how long it's been since they've won a game. So they've lost 6 of the last 7 if you include the game at Bournemouth. But didn't watch match of the day yet at the point of recording, but I'm told that they were extremely unlucky to have a man sent off and showed quite a lot of resilience to stay in that game. So, yeah, I think Steve Cooper being sacked was a bit of an unlucky one. I know the fans still absolutely loved him. Quite an unusual situation because the fans all love him, but probably accepted that it was his time to go, which you don't get very often, because of how tribal and horrible fandoms can be sometimes. But yeah, I think Nuno's a good appointment for them. They clearly needed to make a change. I think there was a point last season, wasn't there, where he was odds on to go for so long, Steve Cooper, and they stuck with him, and he got them through it. But it would have really been another miracle, I think, with the way the form was going. They've not been scoring goals; they've been conceding loads, and I think Nuno's just a steady head. Although I think he must have been to Saudi and not really set the world on fire there. He's had his little sort of Saudi payout, and he's come back to the Premier League. So let's see how he does. They obviously made loads and loads of signings. It became a bit of a joke last year. Was it January?
Yeah,
They signed like 20 players or something.
yeah. I think it was 30 across the entire season. It was
Yeah,
weird.
and still found a way to buy Chris Wood amongst all those players.
And Shelby.
Yeah, it's just bad, wasn't it? It was like, okay, fine, take those off our hands if you really want to. Uh,
Yeah,
so I actually like Forest. They're one of those teams who you kind of want them to be in the Premier League. They're a bit like like Villa, historically European champions, and then fell on harder times. So I've got a lot of time for them. But yeah, they're in a bit of a tough place at the moment.
yeah, absolutely. So, we've just mentioned there. So Willy Bolly is going to be suspended for that game after what Andy hasn't seen yet, but it is actually a farcical decision that he wins the ball and then who was it that we're playing again?
Bournemouth.
So yeah, so Bolly wins the ball cleanly with a tackle, and then the Bournemouth player actually stands on Bolly's foot and then goes down like he's the one that's been crocked completely, and the referee absolutely bought it and then issued a second yellow, which means Bolly is suspended. So with it being a second yellow, I think it can't be looked at or overruled. I don't even think it can be appealed against as well. So very unfortunate for them.
That sounds shocking. I haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet, but it sounds terrible.
And
It's not like
as
the refs.
much, well, right, remain, neutral on that one. So, it's going to be interesting to see as well. I mean, we've talked about it very briefly there. It's a new manager bounce. Is it going to happen? Is it not? Is it just going to be a case of we just turn up at St James's like we normally do, and because our home form and the backing of the crowd is such that we'll just continue our excellent form there at home this season? I do worry about a slight Christmas hangover, and I do also worry about what the result. Again, I didn't want to mention it again, but the result against Luton, how that will impact it as well. But again, this is it's us at home. We've been very, very good at home, and you would think that we should be okay. So in terms of Newcastle United, as we move on, we look like we might be missing Jamal Lascelles, who went down with groin injury at Luton. In terms of everybody else, I think it's for certainly for Jamal, it's very unfortunate, and I think it's almost a consequence of the amount of minutes he's probably played in the last month because he's been solid in there. He's played nearly every single minute of every single game that's come since Botman went down with
I
injury.
think he's been a bit like Cher and Trippier, where he's probably been injured for 3 or 4 weeks, and he's just been playing through it. And I think it was just a step too far for him, similar to with when Cher just pulled his thigh or his glute or whatever it was last
Aye.
week. I think it's just one of them. So hopefully it's now. It's just he just needs a few ice baths and he'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're quite fortunate that Sven Botman, I think, probably now after his 2 what we can call cameo appearances or 3, even after he came on against Fulham last week, he's probably now ready to start a game properly. And you would expect that back four might actually be the original. So it'll be Trippier, Shea, Botman, and Byrne could be that back four back once again. We know that obviously it'll be Gibraltar in nets as well. And it's tough on some players as well. I know, and we both know that Trippier's form has dipped slightly in the last few weeks. Even when he had that suspension, and we know that we would probably like to see Tino in there as well. However, that settled back four speaks for itself really, and you would back them at home to keep a shut Forest out even. So
Well, I
it's
shared a
tough.
picture on Instagram. I think it was last week, and it was that picture of the four of them
Oh
with Pope,
yes,
and they were all sort of looking at Pope as if he was some god. And I said, "Feel like pure, just want this
yeah,
back." And
yeah,
we're not that far away from having that back. I think it's there was obviously lots of points during that run where we were all saying, three of that back four we would never change, maybe just
hmm
improve the left back.
yeah,
But it will be nice to see all of those back if they are in a back four, because especially the early part of last season, they were so resolute, so
hmm
reliable, absolute brick wall. As much as we've loved having Lascelles back in the team, we know that he's not quite at that level we want. And when things are getting a bit tough, you probably just want that lift of someone like Botman coming back. But having someone like Livramento as a bench option is quite nice as well.
yeah,
So it will be jumping ahead slightly. I think I would like to see that back four from the early part of last season back, just for that rigidity. And you look at the team and go, right, we know what we're going to get from them. And I actually think Burns done all right when he's come back in.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
actually tried to progress the ball and ran with it, which is always quite comical. But he has been doing it, and I don't think I know generally the performance against Luton was abysmal, but I don't think Trippier was a standout poor performer.
yeah,
So I think he's probably hopefully over that weird blip he's had. So getting those four back hopefully puts a bit less pressure on Dubravka, because he's obviously struggled as well, although he did make a couple of
hmm
saves, which I did send a klaxon round when he actually made a save, because it's been a long time coming. He's just letting every single shot, poor lad. So yeah, it'll be good to see them back, but then moving forward, I think we're still going to have all these issues. I still don't think Gordon's fit. Wilson
no,
doesn't look as sharp as he used to be. Isak, for me, can only play for 60 minutes. He just looks like he gets tired.
hmm
Almiron is a shadow of the player he was last year. So struggles everywhere, but like you say, back at home, hopefully this is the chance to sort our out.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right as well. That back four might just be the blessing in disguise that Martin Dubravka actually needs. It'll give him so much confidence and so much assurance of that back four being at its peak. Um, and again, like you say, with the options up front as well, I totally agree. I think Gordon isn't really. Gordon's possibly the next one to do Lascelles and play through an injury
Mm,
and do himself some damage potentially. But again, when those options aren't necessarily available, what else can you do? Um, it's the same on the other side as well with Miggy. I mean, I think his dip in form is partly down to the fact that there's no competition there for him. There's no Jacob
mm,
Murphy there to push him to that next level. And I think the sooner he comes back, then he then becomes an option to start as well, just to give him a rest as well. It will probably see an increase in the output from everybody. Um, and again, I agree with you about Wilson and Isak. They're not quite firing on all cylinders. They don't seem as though they've. I mean, Wilson put in a hell of a shift down at Chelsea, and I was praying that his hamstrings weren't going to snap at one point when he was trying to push forward and chase those loose balls. Um, and even when he scored that goal and he was starting to run, I was like, oh God, I can almost hear the sound of his hamstring going as it goes. Um, and it is a concern, but again, we've got a transfer window around the corner, so we'll have to see what they've got lined up for that as well. But again, home, you know, we saw a banner last week against Fulham with Lascelles from Championship to Champions League. I think on Tuesday, if there's time, I think we might need to just get out the old Kieran Trippier banner, the
mm.
little flag there, and just show him that we're there for him and to try and help him through his tough period that he's going through, and maybe even a few others. They'll be in stock somewhere in the Gallagher, so there shouldn't be too much to maybe try and get them out and just be there for the lads. It's our sort of we go there to be entertained, but it's also our job to get those lads motivated and to push them over the line in games like this, especially. So we'll see how we get on. So we have promised to try and keep these short, and we're going to do that this time around. We haven't heard Eddie's pre-match press conference yet, so we don't know the full details about how everybody's doing and everybody's availability. So we're going to dive straight into our predictions now. And because I'm host, and I get to make Andy go first. So Andy, what do you got?
That's very kind of you. Right, I keep predicting wins and then we keep losing.
Mm.
So I don't know whether I should try some reverse psychology or not and say we're going to get destroyed. But no, back at home, you can't not back us to win. We've been so I think we're second in the home league
Yeah.
table and then
Yeah.
17th in the away table. It's just ridiculous. It's Boxing Day. Everyone should be merry. Hopefully the football doesn't put a downer on everyone's Christmas. I'm going to say 2-0 win. We're going to have that back four back. We're going to be solid. 2 goals. I keep for some reason predicting a Wilson penalty, which isn't happening, but this time it is. Wilson penalty. And then Isak. Yes, because I'm going to put him in a fantasy team. So Isak is going to come in, play as the number 10, and he's going to get the second. That's my thought. 2-0.
Very good.
I think that's been prediction for 4 weeks. 2-0 Wilson and Isak. So it's going to happen eventually. If I just keep saying it, it'll eventually happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm very much along the lines of you, and I don't really think, you just have to look statistically. We've just been absolutely fantastic at home, and that form speaks for itself. I know it's the early game on Boxing Day, so I'm hoping that nobody going has a bit of a hangover from Christmas Day. Hope everybody's still full of some spirit or spirits, if that's the way we're going. And we're able to generate a nice little atmosphere to get that going.
It'll be good.
Yeah, it would. It would be nice and joyous, and we sang about Jason Tyndall having our hearts from last Christmas, so we might as well just keep going with that as well. Make it a nice, happy, joyous place to be, and forget everybody else, forget what's happening with Forest fans, and use it to produce a positive energy for the players to get them through the game. And I'm gonna stick with you, Andy. I'm gonna agree with you and go with a 2-0 win, but I'm actually gonna go with a carbon copy of last season, and we're gonna have Fabian Schär with another screamer just for Christmas cracker, and a Callum Wilson finish as well. Why not?
I'll take that because Schär's goal last season, right where I sit. So if I can have another angle of that, carbon copy, that would be unreal.
It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
I've seen some right belters from my seat actually. Joe Linton's against Milan as well.
Oh,
Quality.
I tell you what, we're right behind that ball, up in the corner. And as soon as it left his foot and it arrowed in, the keeper was just so slow. Well, he wasn't slow to react to it. It was just the ferocity of the shot. It was hit with such pace, and it was past him before he even got close. So I agree with you there as well. But yeah, so that's it. 2-0 wins for us here. If you've got any predictions for yourself, just pop them in the comments below. If you're watching it on YouTube, or even tweet us out and give us a shout and let us know what you think. And with that, because this is going out, I would imagine this will probably go out either later today on Christmas Eve or on Christmas morning itself. From me and Andy, we'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.